Hi, my name is Ella Piskorski. I'm currently the president of Acres Student Farm, and this will be our first episode of our 2020 Acres video series. This episode will be on sorrel. So just to describe our video series, so the plan is each week we're going to post a video about a plant you can grow in Laramie. So to start with, these will just be these 5 plants: sorrel, strawberries, carrots, pumpkins, and lettuce. If this goes well, we'll do more videos either about preserving food or maybe more plants you can grow in Laramie or other things that apply to acres. It really depends on what you all want and what people like. So this first episode again is on sorrel, and we'll be going over a description of sorrel, how to grow it, storing and preserving it, how to use it, and a soup recipe for it. So description of sorrel, it's this plant, the green leafy stuff up in the top corner of the gray rag. This is a harvest I had in early June of last year. The rhubarb, strawberries, and sorrel all from Acres Student Farm, and then the eggs are from my backyard. But I was really proud of myself that day. So sorrel is a green and leafy herb or vegetable, depending on who you ask. It has a sour or lemony flavor. I describe it as sour. Other people describe it as lemony. It's a perennial that's hardy to zone 5, but we have grown it as a perennial at Acres, even though we're in zone 4. So it might be kind of on the cusp. I'm not really sure, but we have managed to grow it as a perennial. So how to grow it, you're going to want to sow the seeds when the soil has warmed. It needs high organic matter in the soil to grow. So you'll want to amend your soil with compost, maybe every year, or at least before you planted it to start with. It's a pretty high water needer, so you're going to have to irrigate it since Laramie gets so little rainfall. You'll need about 1 inch of water a week. You'll harvest the leaves when they're small and tender. So early on, when it's cooler out, this is when the leaves will be small and tender. Later on the year, when it gets too hot out, it eventually just starts getting super tough and just not gross. And it doesn't have as strong of a flavor either. To me, it doesn't taste as sweet, nicely sour. It just kind of grows. So this is really only a spring plant in Laramie. You're not going to really keep harvesting it into the summer. So you'll also divide it every few years. Since it's a perennial, at least in our experience, it's a perennial. You can do this every year in the spring. You can do this every few years. It really depends on how big your plant grows. And you can leave the seed stalk to self-seed. So pictured on the right is what looks to me as a sorrel seed stalk. And so if you just leave that on, it will self-seed. Last fall, I did take some of the seeds from our sorrel plants at Acres, and they're going to be trying to propagate them in this spring. So I can also update people on what happens with those seeds, if they actually work or not. I don't know if I did it right because I was just kind of going on gut feeling as opposed to some sort of instructions on how to save seed for sorrel plant. So we'll find out. Regarding storing and preserving sorrel, it doesn't store that well. It's kind of like other leafy greens, how if you leave it in your fridge for a while, it'll get like either wilty or kind of mushy or just gross. So you're going to have to store it somehow besides just in your fridge. So one option would be puree it and then freeze it in little ice cube trays, and then whenever you want, maybe you put some sorrel in a soup, you'll just drop an ice cube into your soup. Another thing is storing it in brine. So this picture here is from my family's kitchen. It's shredded sorrel in brine. It's from our local Polish import store. So the thing is, I couldn't find a recipe of how to make sorrel in brine safely. I found a site that looked to be Russian, maybe then translated into Polish and then translated into English. But the thing is, it wasn't very accurately translated. So I don't really know how accurate the directions were, because who knows what got lost in translation. So if someone can find directions on how to store it in brine like this, I would really be interested in that, but I could not find anything that looked safe online. But obviously it is possible, I just don't know how. You can also purchase this thing from, I guess if you have a Polish import store, like we do in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I live, you can purchase it, or maybe you can figure out how to make it yourself. Just don't give yourself botulism. So how to use sorrel. It's a good source of vitamins A and C, and it obviously, since it's a leaf, it has some fiber in it and carbohydrates, stuff like that. It also has a lot of high I think it's pronounced oxalic, I'm not sure, acid content. So those that have certain medical conditions like arthritis or kidney stones may want to like not eat a lot of it. This is the same as like spinach. If you have certain conditions, talk to your doctor about before you like mega dose with sorrel supplements or anything like that. So normally you use the leaves, not the stems. The stems are edible. They're just kind of tougher, so they're not as tasty. You can just stick this in with like lettuce and spinach and all your other greens and salads. It's a leaf, you can do whatever you want with it. You can cook it, you can saute it, whatever, it's fine. It's not gonna hurt you. But one recipe that I have is, I'm gonna try to say this again. My mom kept saying it, but it was really hard for me to say. Zupa szczawiowa. Yeah, that's more or less right. My mom says it way better, but basically it's Polish sorrel soup. There are a lot of different versions of this from different countries in Eastern Europe and Central Europe. But it generally contains things like potatoes and carrots and dill and obviously sorrel and sour cream. And this one has hard-boiled eggs on top. It can be kind of like dark green like this. It can be less green. It can be more clear. There are a lot of different versions of way to make this, but those are kind of the commonalities that I'm aware of. Personally, my relatives, they don't use fresh sorrel. They use preserved sorrel, like the sorrel in brine that was on a past slide. But there are recipes that include fresh sorrel. I will include a link to one of these recipes on our website. So if you want to try making a sorrel soup with fresh sorrel, this is an option for you. But personally, I really recommend growing sorrel in general, just because I think it tastes really good. It's fun just to pick off a leaf and eat it when you're walking on by. You're weeding some other stuff and maybe you're a little bit peckish, so you just pull off a leaf. It's fine. It's good. But sorrel does well in Laramie relatively. It's again a spring crop. This is something that's going to start growing really before any of your other stuff. So we don't bring it to farmers markets or anything because it grows too early. It's like basically finishes its peak performance before the farmers market stops. It gets too warm. It just kind of peters out. It gets tough and kind of gross. But I'm going to try growing sorrel at my house in Minnesota while I'm under quarantine this spring. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, so stay tuned for our future episodes of vegetables that grow in Laramie series. Next week will be strawberries, and we'll be talking about, again, these same kind of topics of how to grow them in Laramie, how to preserve them. I'll have some pictures from the farm of our strawberries. Thank you for watching.